All right. So the good times with the narcissist, and it's something that we easily forget about. And I think the good times and these experiences that we remember of the highs with these people. I think it's really the roots of the trauma bond, and I want to talk about that and share my experience and how I think we can navigate it better. But first, I want to tell you about where I'm at. My wife suggested that I share with you the locations of where I am because it is interesting. And so I just wanted to tell you, I'm currently at what's called the Montgomery Place on the Hudson River, and it's on the campus of Bard University or college or something here in the Hudson Valley. And this is a home built by Janet Livingston Montgomery in the 1800s, and she was a Revolutionary War widow and a industrialist. So anyway, that's the house she built. It's pretty cool. Anyway, these are parks that you can come to and walk around, and they're like these massive estates that that New York State maintains. Anyway, okay, so back to the good times, because it's easy to just get lost in all the negativity and all the bad stuff that we experience with these people. And just because I think that by human nature, that's kind of how we are. We just kind of remember the bad stuff. But, I have a lot of good memories with these people, like with my narc mom, like some really good memories, like some really high points with her. And even thinking of my gnarly narc girlfriends, man, like some really highs with them, like the intense love bombing and, all that comes with that. And, like I remember that, and that really happened. And that really made me feel good. And I can't deny that. But the problem is that these people, they're so good at giving you those experiences of those highs and those good feelings that it becomes addicting, and it's unnatural in a sense, because what ends up happening is you experience these super high highs and then these really low lows, and there's kind of nothing in between. And in my opinion, those are the roots of the trauma bond. So if you've grown up as a child and you're indoctrinated into this kind of behavior where the good times are great and you're super high and you feel amazing, and then it's quickly boom shut down to the bad and the negative and all that's associated with that, you end up becoming addicted to the highs. It's like your body, it's like you get a dopamine response, just like someone who's using drugs or whatever that's going to stimulate the dopamine in your body. You feel so good, you're stimulated, and you end up spending all your time chasing that. And so when I was a kid, because I was fully indoctrinated into this behavior from this person, and as a kid, all I wanted to be was in the good graces of the narc, and I just wanted to experience those highs, and I was addicted to that as a child. And the way that I sought that was through being an overachiever. I just tried to be good, and I was good at pretty much anything I would try to do. I could focus and execute, and it was mostly just in sports because I was really physical and I excelled at sports. And so I got all my praise and admiration from the narc from being really good at sports, like the best soccer player, the best baseball player. Those are my two main sports. I was pretty good in football. I was kind of small when I was a kid, so basketball and football, so whatever. But what's interesting about that is, like, so the narc gets you all addicted to their, the high highs with them. And so then as a kid, it's probably happened to you or a lot of people experience this, they become an overachiever. And then the narc claims all your wins. That's their program. And then it's like this, you're just feeding them more by being an overachiever, by chasing, the highs of them giving you all this good energy and praise. And then in turn, they just turn and take that, and it's like their own win. And that was pretty much, my whole childhood was just chasing that feeling of admiration and love and anything I could get that was positive from the nurse. And on the flip side of that, it's like the extreme, so you get this extreme love bombing and admiration and good energy from the nurse, to then all of a sudden it's just the rug gets ripped out, and then you're like the worst person ever. They don't want anything to do with you. They'll just cut you down. They just know exactly what to say, exactly what to do. They put you right in this place of like, you're just a piece of shit, and they don't want anything to do with you. And a common phrase my mom would say is like, my life is over, fuck these kids. That was like, I heard that constantly growing up. And that's, that's a shitty feeling to think, oh yeah, like I ruined my mother's life. And so you get this, it's like this up and down, hot, cold. And what that ends up leading to is, especially if you're a child and you're born into that environment, that's how you learn to bond with people. And that is traumatic. And that is the trauma bond. And you'll spend the rest of your life chasing that high of how to get the high from the really good, love bombing, admiration, super high, good feeling. But then you end up chasing the low as well, because you have learned how to feel comfortable and centered in this unhealthy emotional environment, this traumatic environment. And so now, like as a kid, I just got used to that. But then as I became older and started to become like a teenager, a young man, and an early adult, the way I would go after that traumatic emotional connection that I had learned from my narc mother was then I would compromise everything. It was like I would never say no. And that was a big thing was, I was just like this yes man. Like I had no spine and I didn't want any conflict. And I would just always let people take advantage of me. And that was pretty much the program till I woke up, and I was about 40. It was like 4 years ago. So it was like my whole adulthood. I was just, everyone took advantage of me, and I would pursue these narcissistic, abusive people because all they understood of how to have a deep bond and a deep connection, because your parents are the ones that you form that deep initial connection and bond with. And so it was all my people around me. I mean, like 90% of them were probably narcissists. I was remembering a friend I had, and we worked at this restaurant together, and we were line cooks, and it was at a breakfast place, and it was just like nonstop cranking line cook from 6 a.m. till 2, and you didn't get a break because there's no break. There's people in there constantly, and it's a high stress environment. But I remember this person, I considered him my friend. We hung out a ton. We skated together a ton. We smoked weed. We snowboarded. We worked together. We spent a lot of time together. But he would do this thing where he would just get so mad and stressed out and just lose his temper on me all the time and just say the meanest shit and totally cut me down, total narc behavior, and then act like nothing happened. And it was 2 o'clock, we're over, we're smoking a bowl out back, and it's hey bro, everything's all good. And those were the kind of people that I surrounded myself with. And it was that exact kind of behavior where yeah, we'd be skating and snowboarding and having the best time of our lives, and then cut to we're working together and he's just hammering on me, making me feel like shit. But I kept coming back because I was just conditioned to only go after those kinds of people to relate to. And I passed up some really good friendships with just normal people because that it was foreign to me to have a connection with anyone that was just normal, a normal emotional connection. And what's interesting is, people who grow up in a normal emotional environment where they're not traumatized and indoctrinated into this way of relating to people, the narcissistic behavior is strange to them. if I had been born in just a normal emotional environment and I learned how to relate to people in a healthy way, that guy treating me like shit and yelling at me for no reason, I would have told him to kick rocks and I wouldn't have been his friend. Like, why would you spend time with anyone when they treat you that way? Because to people that don't grow up in this indoctrination or even the spell, you know, this is the spell that we talk a lot about, they don't get it. They don't understand, you know, why would you let somebody do that? And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people, they don't get out of this. You know, that's the position my dad's in. You know, he's never gotten out of his traumatic emotional upbringing. His dad was a raging narc, and he's trauma bonded to terrible people and women his whole life. He trauma bonded to my mom, who's a raging narc, and he was just hammered the shit out of him for his whole life. And I don't know if he'll ever get out of it. I mean, I made a video talking about, you know, if she dies or whatever, because they're in their 70s now. And I've tried, man. You know, I told him about when I woke up 4 years ago, and he agreed that, yeah, she's evil, and, you know, no one can get along with her. She has no friends. You know, she just, all she wants to do is just cause trouble and mayhem. And he agrees and understands that. But he is so bonded to her, man, that he cannot break free. And so, and I think, you know, in his position, yeah, I think he's chasing any little bit of good feeling that he can get from her. I think he continues to chase that every single day, and it's almost like that's what like keeps us all coming back to the narc, is that super high. And I remember I had this girlfriend, and she wasn't a narc, but she was bipolar, and like I was young, and I didn't know anything, and I had no fucking filter to distinguish, you know, when people were crazy. It's like, if the women were hot, that's all. That was my only thing. If I was attracted to them, then yeah, that was it. But this chick was fully bipolar, and, you know, she was not on medication. And I remember, like, the highs with her were like amazing, man. We would just have so much fun, and it was like crazy. And she was so energetic and so motivated, and like it was really cool. But then, you know, she'd like go home, and then I'd see her the next day, and boom, it was just like this switch, man. And she was so low, like wanting to end it, you know, because of she couldn't get tomatoes at the grocery store or something. And it was a roller coaster, man, for sure. She eventually like fucked off and left, but that's, you know, and I was like chasing that feeling with her because I was used to that. I had grown up in that unnatural kind of high. And now that I'm in a normal relationship, it's interesting to think, like, it's kind of like this. It's like we're just kind of cruising. You know, there's no extreme high and there's no extreme low. It's always this, we have this baseline of emotion, and it's all love and it's all good. And there are, you know, high points, and the high points certainly outweigh the low points, but the low points are like, I don't know, like they're not really that bad. It's never, you know, sometimes like we'll get stressed out or something and like disagree, but we don't, my wife and I don't fight. We just like disagree because she's real, like she has her way and I have my way, and sometimes those don't line up. But we're always able to kind of like, we'll get bent out of shape a little bit and then take like, you know, a couple minutes or a half hour, whatever. And then we come back. Like you always kind of come back when you're in a normal, emotional, you know, stable relationship. It's easy to feel like, yeah, I think I kind of messed up there and I wasn't in the right, and her too. And then we just come back and then we reason it out. And there's that middle ground in between those highs and those lows. And with the narc, that just doesn't exist, man. It's like that's the soul of the relationship. And with the narc, that just doesn't exist. The soul's just carved out, and it's just these like fucking just like negative, positive, and that's all you get. and it'll just run you ragged, man. And you just will chase. You'll chase both of them for your whole life, unless you can wake up. I mean, by the grace of God, if you can somehow get a message sent to you that snaps you out of it, and you can realize. Otherwise, man, you're like my dad, and he just chases that constantly. And I don't know if like the negative, makes him feel. I was kind of thinking about it on the way over here, and I was like, it's like you grow up in that environment as a kid, and you're programmed to understand emotion in those extremes. And yeah, you're always chasing the good, but then when you experience the negative, it's like you feel comfortable in it because you've experienced it for so long. And the negative, like we have balance in nature. To have good, you have to have the bad, and vice versa. And if you've grown up in that environment, even though negative emotion and feelings make you feel like shit, but if you're indoctrinated in it and you're under the spell, you're comfortable in that, and it's like he almost craves that. Like he knows it's coming, and it happens, and it makes him feel like shit, but like it makes him feel safe, I think, in a sense, if you understand what I'm talking about. And I think I was the same way. Yeah, obviously I was chasing the good for that good reward, but like I would bond to these people, and there would be that negative side, but yeah, it's like I felt safe in that. And maybe, I think maybe that's what he's experiencing as well. I don't know. Maybe that's what you've experienced. But when it's good, it's great. And it's key to understand how that good is really the hook, and right behind it is the complete polar opposite on the extreme, because the good is just it's unnaturally high, and it gets you addicted. And somehow these people have figured it out. They're like masters in manipulation, they're masters in psychology, they're masters in human behavior. It's incredible to think that they just are naturally equipped with these skills. That's what baffles me, and that's what makes me think is there's something a lot darker and demonic and almost possessive of what overcomes these people. Because how do you just a master manipulator of human behavior, psychology, and emotion? That's like, and then yeah, you can just continually execute that for your life. Like that's insane to think that, and just cause chaos and destruction, and you're just like, that fuels you. Like that is extremely dark. Anyway, well, I hope you like the talk, hope you like the setting, and as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you.